What's good, and welcome back to another edition of LSU Live, presented by FanDuel. Of course, I'm your host, Lewis Johnson, and we feeling a little down today. Got a little tickle in the throat, a little cold. Everybody got a little something going on with all the changes in the weather, but we're gonna push through. It's all good. We're gonna push through tonight. We're reaching the crossroads. Super Bowl is done, so it's no more football. No spring practice for a few more weeks. No draft for a couple of months. So we've reached a critical point. LSU basketball ain't looking too hot. So we got a lifeline coming this week. We got baseball coming back, and you got a huge game, absolutely huge game with the LSU women against South Carolina. So let's see if Kim Mulkey can break that streak against your girl Dawn Staley. A lot of respect for their program, but LSU is due for one. And what could make it more fun than Malaysia Fulwiley being able to get some revenge against her old team? But as far as football goes, we're starving for news, but you always got news, man. There is no off season in college football. You always got something going on. So we're gonna push through, make the best of it. Still got a loaded show. Still got a lot going on. Excuse me. A lot going on and a lot to get to. And one way or another, you still got positive news, even though there's no football going on. It's a lot of projecting going on, a lot of projections going around, flying around. Everybody wants to know and wants to project and wants to be the first to be right about who's going to be good and who's not going to be so good next year. So you got a recent article published by ESPN from Adam Rittenberg, where he's talking about the most important coordinator hires. Included in these hires are like retainments, guys who could have gone or had a chance to go somewhere else, but the program managed to retain them. And in that list of guys who we mentioned, LSU's Blake Baker was high on this list of the most important retainees, specifically in the SEC, but in college football, period. He mentioned Blake Baker and DJ Durkin as far as returning coordinators in the SEC who were going to make a huge impact. And I would tend to agree with Rittenberg that Baker is definitely one of the most important, one of the most key coordinators in the sport, because not only is Baker proven, he's proven in my book as far as what he is as a coordinator and a coach. LSU is going to need to lean on that defense. You got much more continuity on the defensive side of the ball, so LSU is going to need Blake Baker and his defense to kind of pick the team up where they might be trying to get their feet under them as far as an offense. You still got a lot of moving parts. You got a lot of moving pieces. And I got a lot of faith in the staff, but it's so much change on that offense, especially on your O-line and in your receiving core, that it's gonna take some time. There's no fast forward button on this type of situation. So just to go further into why Blake Baker is so important, and I've mentioned this a few times on my show because people complain so much, and I get it, but you can say what you want about being vulnerable against a mobile quarterback. Look, no coach out there is perfect, no defense is perfect, but struggles against running quarterbacks or not, let's look at the facts. In 2023, that defense was historically bad before he got there. Scoring defense was 82nd. First year that Blake Baker gets on campus, that scoring defense is 59th. Second year of Baker coming back to running defense for LSU, you go from 59th to 23rd. So that's going from 82nd to 59th to 23rd. Look, it's hard to argue with that. Now, some of the shortcomings as far as the struggles against the running quarterback, some of that is personnel related too. Either way, I think, it's hard to argue that his defenses have struggled against your more athletic quarterbacks, your Marcel Reeds, but it's not to say that they can't improve. But no matter how you slice it, no matter how you look at it, the defense as a whole has improved, and not only improved, it's improved vastly over the past couple of years since he's been back. Beyond the numbers, you still have a lot of reasons that Baker is very important to this LSU team. One of those reasons is stability. Like I said, you got a lot of changes on the offensive side of the ball, on the staff, and on the team as a whole. So one stable unit is your defense, and that's incredibly important to maintain some continuity on that side of the ball. Not only do your players get another year in the same system to grow, you know, the longer you're in the system, the longer you understand what each call, each play is asking of you, the less you think. The less you think, the faster you play. So the players who've been in the system will only get better. But not only are you playing in the same system, keeping Baker as a coordinator allows you to keep a lot of your position coaches. So you're also playing underneath the same coaches. You still got Corey Raymond, for example. All over that defense, you got position coaches who have been there for a couple of years, and your players have had a chance to gain some familiarity with their expectations and how they do things. So you keep your position coaches, and also with Blake Baker's history in Louisiana, you know, going to Tulane, coming to LSU as a linebackers coach, he's been around Louisiana for a long time. So that familiarity is only going to help you on the recruiting trail too. Having these relationships with the high school coaches all over the state. Louisiana is kind of different in that, you know, you got a lot of talent that comes from small towns too. Everybody knows New Orleans is loaded. You're typically gonna get a few kids from Shreveport. The 337 is gonna give you a few over in Lafayette, Lake Charles, but this staff has recruited all over the state, like every corner, 1A schools, 2A, 3A, whatever. It takes some time to be around to kind of know where to look and to build these relationships to where people will reach out to you. Hey, look, I got this kid. You know, a high school coach isn't gonna. You have some who are gonna call up and try to fight to get opportunities for their kids just because they love the kid, but you're gonna be quicker to call somebody you know and you trust than somebody you don't. Baker's been around. He's gained trust. He can go to any high school in this state. So those are a lot of factors in making Blake Baker very important to this LSU team, and what his defense is able to do and how much they can improve. You got some more pass rushers coming in, and more on that later. But the rate at which that defense can improve and hit its potential could be critical. It could be the difference maker in allowing LSU to make it to the playoffs while the offense is still getting it together. Speaking of the playoffs, as I said earlier, we are presented by FanDuel, and you do have odds on LSU in the championship already. You haven't had spring practice, but you got championship odds. So you can go on FanDuel right now, and LSU has the ninth best odds to win the championship in 2026. And I think that's saying a lot. There's no bias in Vegas. I've said it before. There's no SEC bias. There's no LSU bias. This is all about probability. This is all about making money. Like, these guys are in it to make money. So if LSU has the ninth best odds, it's not necessarily saying that LSU is the ninth best team, because you also got to look at the route these teams are taking to get to the championship. So that's got to be considered too in odds making. But it definitely says a lot about what non-partial people think of LSU's chances this year, and I think that's encouraging. Not only, so you got ninth best odds, which I think that's pretty impressive, but the over/under in wins is at 9.5, so that kind of tells you that maybe people are becoming more confident that a 9-win team can make the playoffs, because it's the juice on that 9.5 is slightly tilted in favor of LSU going under 9.5, which would be 9-3. So it's plus 116, leaning towards under on 9.5. But you got over under of 9.5, and you got the ninth best odds. Either way, I think most people are thinking LSU is gonna come together rather quickly. Um, as far as the ceiling of this team, when you look at the players, I don't wanna go too far. I don't wanna put undue pressure or expectations on the team. But when you look at that haul, the ceiling is pretty high. Nothing is guaranteed, but you also can't rule anything out. When you look at what LSU brought in and you look at this staff and what it's been able to do with less than what it has on paper right now. So that was interesting to me. But I talked about that defense, and I also talked about the pass rushers on the defense. It's going to be a difference in what you see on the edge from LSU this year than what you saw last year. You're going to be a little more explosive. I think a lot more explosive on the edge with guys like Umami Allen from Ole Miss coming in. But I don't want to get too caught up in the transfers to the point to where you forget about guys who are coming back who are already in Baton Rouge on the team. You got a lot of star power in this transfer class for LSU. But you also have some guys, some very capable guys who've been on campus already, and either they've had injuries or they've had depth in front of them that kind of kept them from fully blossoming into what you thought you were getting when you recruited these high four-star guys. And one player I want to mention tonight is a sophomore Gabe Relaford out of Shreveport, out of Evangel. Relaford was starting to, you could see the light starting to come on for him last year. Relaford came in the class of, I think, 24, high four-star guy out of Evangel. He didn't start, but when he got in, I think he was a little more impactful, a little more explosive than your Pie Burns and Paytons. Those guys were good in their own right as edge players, as defensive ends, as veterans. They were assignment sound, and they had a lot to offer. They brought a lot to the defense, but Rutherford brings a pass rushing element that those guys simply did not bring. Now, unfortunately for Rutherford, he got hurt early in the season, tore his rotator cuff, I think, against Southeastern. And this is in the fourth game, so you can redshirt this year and still come back as a sophomore next year. But Rutherford is one guy who I definitely want to single out as far as a guy who could make an impact this year. And I know that LSU brought in some big dogs on the edge. I mentioned Umami Allen from Ole Miss. You also got Jordan Ross coming in from Tennessee. You also got guys that you recruited last year like Damian Shanklin, who will return. But Rutherford, I think, really has a chance to stand out. I'm not going to rule him out from winning a starting job. I think you can pretty much make a safe bet that Umami Allen is going to start on one edge. So who's going to be on the other side? Is it going to be Ross? Don't forget about Rutherford. Do not be surprised if this guy comes back healthy and earns a starting job. And even if he doesn't start, this is a guy who's going to make an impact on this defense as long as he's healthy. He just had a pass rush ability that separated him from the other guys in 2025. He does have more competition. I think you'll have more athletic guys in that rotation on the edge, but I think he can make it through. And, one thing about Rutherford, really a few things why I wanted to single him out. For me, all right, so I love football, right? Any level, high school, college, NFL. My favorite level of football is college football. My favorite sport is college football. And there are a few things that make college football different than the NFL that kind of sets it apart. And one thing I think is that passion that just seems to permeate through the sport that is not quite the same in the NFL. And look, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt right now. The Dome is it's hard to beat a Sunday afternoon in the Superdome, but for a big-time college atmosphere, nothing tops it. So part of that passion is rooting for guys who really want to be there. You know, it's a different day and age. You got pay to play, and I get it. I'm not judging anybody. Look, pay me enough, I'll go wherever, whatever. But, you know, everybody's paying, so you got a choice. You got a choice if you gave Relaford. He had a choice before he came to LSU. He had a choice to stay at LSU after this year with a new coaching staff. Even though you got most of the same coaches on the defensive side of the ball. But it's something about a kid that chose LSU, wants to be at LSU, that kind of makes me look at him a little bit differently. And it's nothing against the guy that transferred in. It's just one of the small remnants of the sport that differentiates it from the NFL that you want to appreciate. At least I do. So it's a personal connection that he has with the team that makes you feel like, you know, he's really, you know, he's truly a Tiger. He's bleeding purple and gold. Let's root for this dude. He's fighting through adversity, and he's not the only one. And look, he's not staying at LSU for free either. He's getting paid. You better believe that. He's getting compensated, as well he should. But he chose to come. He chose to stay. He's now choosing to fight, added talent to the depth chart, and make his mark at LSU. So that commitment to the team, I think, makes me root for him a little bit harder because, you know, you can't stop change. You can complain all you want to, but you can't stop change, and the sport is changing so fast that things kind of feel like they go off the rails, like it's out of control, and things will settle down once the sport can figure out the legal side of it and get some true leadership. But as for now, there isn't much that we can hold on to that, you know, remains from what the sport used to be. Gabe Relaford is one of those guys. He's an example of what the sport used to be. And as for me, I'm rooting for him. And also, he's a 318 dude, so I'm all about the 318. So shout out to Gabe Relaford. I'm hoping he has a good year, a great year this year. And as I said, even if he doesn't earn a starting job, he's going to be a big-time competitor on the edge for LSU. As I said earlier, fighting a little itch there, but we're going to fight through it. It's all good. Bear with me. Looking to the future. We talked about 2026. We talked about the defense. We talked about a returning player who, you know, could make a big impact on their defense. Now it's time to look to the future. LSU just wrapped up its 2026 high school class. You had signing day last week. Of course, we've gone on and on. Everybody has talked a lot about the transfer class, but it's recruiting, and of course, it never stops. So I wanted to point out another prospect who's kind of getting some attention this week because on 3, Shea Dixon has made a prediction for LSU to close the deal with a local running back in Catholic High's Jaden Miles, Catholic High out of Baton Rouge. So Jaden Miles is a 6'2", 200-pound running back at Catholic powerhouse. You know, Catholics have been good to LSU over the years in multiple sports, to be honest. Absolute powerhouse. They're putting out kids every year, so it's important to maintain that pipeline. But pipeline or no pipeline, Jaden Miles is good. Absolutely one of the best running backs in the state. He's a little different than another running back I had on a few weeks ago in Trey Martin. This is a tall running back with a long stride. He gets used in a lot of ways. They split him out. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. As I said, they split him out sometimes, so he's also a good receiver in the slot. He'll take some direct snaps. Very versatile athlete, and he's fun to watch. When you watch him, and I hate to use this term, but he really does have deceptive speed. You know, when people say deceptive speed, a lot of times it's, to be honest, it's code for a white dude. But nah, his speed is deceptive because He's tall, and it doesn't look like he's moving. It doesn't look like he's using a lot of effort, but he's moving fast. Those long legs, they kind of just glide down the field. It kind of reminds you of watching Deuce McAllister in the open field. You know, it doesn't look like he's running hard. It doesn't look like he's running fast, but he's running away from people. So Miles, he's also got good balance. When you watch him, he can get low, but you don't see a lot of him just trucking people, just dropping his shoulder and just running over people. But he does have good balance, and he's hard to bring down. You see people try to go low at him. You see him kind of just shaking tacklers off. So he's got really good balance, especially for a tall guy, and he's got more wiggle than what you would expect from a tall guy. He can make people miss in the open field. So Miles is a very impressive running back prospect. So I think it definitely bodes well for people in the know, the true recruiting gurus, to kind of project him to come to LSU. Now, let's say he does. LSU didn't sign any high school recruits this past year. Didn't sign one high school player as a running back. But you did bring in 4 transfer running backs, and all of them freshmen. So all of these guys have 3 more years to play at the college level, and that's if you don't redshirt anything after that. So LSU is going to bring back Caden Durham as a junior in 26, Harlan Berry as a sophomore in 2026. That leaves you with 6 guys right now, but the guys that they brought in from the transfer class. And let's be honest, this time next year, the guys you see, there's no way in hell you're going to have all 6 of them back. It's just where we are as a sport. So you can expect to lose, let's say, 2 to 3 of those guys. Worst case, you lose 3 of them. So you go from having 6 on your roster to 3. So that tells me that LSU is most likely going to target at least, they're going to plan on getting at least 2 high school running backs, I would think. So if you get Jaden Miles, that leaves a couple of more to look out for. As I said, Trey Martin, who came on the show a few weeks ago out of Winsboro, Franklin Parish High School, will be another one who I think is, I mean, for my money, he's the best running back in the state. And don't forget about another elite running back prospect in Landon Williams-Callis out of South Texas in the Houston area. The last staff was moving kind of slow on Williams-Callis, and I think that put LSU behind. But Lane Kiffin did have a relationship with him from when he was at Ole Miss. So don't be surprised if this staff is able to make up some ground in that recruitment. I think he's currently projected, or currently favored to go to A&M right now, but there's a lot of time left. And look, we've seen it time and time again from this staff. They can close the deal. So LSU is not out of it with them, but yeah, as far as Williams-Callis out of Houston, this is a top 5, consensus top 5 type running back in the country. So those are just 3. There are definitely more out there, but those are 3 that I know of that LSU is looking at pretty hard. So Jaden Miles could be the next Catholic Bear to join the LSU Tigers. So talking about recruits, and one school that LSU is in constant competition with to get recruits is Alabama. And Alabama has a little situation going on right now on the basketball side of things that, I mean, as for me, it's embarrassing. But they're not the first, they won't be the last to do this. And Alabama has a player who has gone to the NBA, dropped down to the G League, and tried to come back to college, and Charles Bediako. He's played a few games. He's played at least like maybe 2-3 weeks, and a judge recently ruled that he can't play any longer. So as of now, he's ineligible. He can't play. But he came in. He played just long enough to help Alabama beat some people that are already fighting, to win the SEC. Guys who are teams who are fighting for NCAA seeding. So I don't know how all that'll work. I mean, it's quite a shock that Alabama would bend the rules and take a guy who's a former pro and try to put him in college. But here we are. Here we are. They tried to do it. As for now, it's not working. I mean, for once, you got a win for common sense. We're not seeing too much of that these days, but we got a win for common sense. We didn't let a guy come back, go to the pros, come back to college, play, and keep playing. Like, you let him come back and play, but at least you didn't let him keep playing. So I'll take that. That's a win for common sense in my book. But it made me think. It got me to thinking. So what if LSU could do that? What if LSU could do that in football? What if LSU could go and get a player who's played for LSU and moved on to the NFL? If they could, who would you get? Do you just go for the best player? Do you try to address a need? Because if you try to address a need, look, you can say what you want about Will Campbell and what happened to him in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I'm talking about what they did at LSU, and Will Campbell was an absolute dog at LSU. He was somebody who you could count on since his freshman year. And I'm not going to write him off yet in the NFL either, but just talking about what he did at LSU, if I could go and get somebody from the pro level and bring him back, and I look at one of the only question marks on this roster is the offensive line, and the thought of having Will Campbell on one side and Jordan Seaton on the other, man, that's a lot to think about. That's a lot to think about. But at the same time, if you're going to go and pick one player from the NFL, you don't want an offensive lineman. Come on. You want somebody fun, exciting. And look, it's fun to watch offensive linemen go out there and maul people, but that's not what people are paying to see. Nobody's buying $2,500 Super Bowl tickets to go watch the offensive line. Well, unless you're an offensive line coach or some kind of sicko like that. So we'll move along from Will Campbell. Who else could we get? Man, when you got a questionable offensive line, I mean, in a bad running game, who better than Jaden Daniels? Now you fix two problems. I mean, you killing two birds with one stone. You got a guy who can fix the running game by himself, and you got a guy who can kind of make the offensive line look better, look 100 times better, because he can just escape. Protection breaks down. Well, good luck. You got to catch him. You got to catch Jaden Daniels in the open field. So you're talking about a Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best deep ball passers ever. And again, we're not talking about what he's doing right now. We're not talking about injuries or where he is right now in the NFL. He had a rough second year, trying to stay healthy. But at LSU, Jaden Daniels was absolutely unstoppable, and man, was it fun to watch. So you got to consider him too. Of course, you got to think about Burrow. Now, we're talking about LSU right now, right? So we're talking about Lane Kiffin, and I think that Jaden Daniels is absolutely the ideal fit for a Lane Kiffin offense. I think he's the perfect fit. I think if you were drawing up a team for Lane Kiffin, it's hard to come up with a better quarterback than Daniels. If I'm looking at one player who can elevate a team and has played at the highest level that I've seen at the quarterback position, I got to take Joe Burrow. If I'm taking one player from the NFL to put him on this LSU team, and LSU has plenty of capable quarterbacks. You got three quarterbacks that I trust more than what we saw in 2025 on this roster right now. But still, given a chance, I would take Joe Burrow. I mean, you're talking about 60 touchdowns, man, in 1 year. 60 in 1 year. I'm not talking about a career. Like, imagine in the years from 2010 to 2012, imagine during that era, somebody telling you that LSU was going to have a quarterback to throw for that many touchdowns in 1 year. It's crazy. And I talked about the offensive line. Burrow, don't forget about how good of a runner that Burrow was in college. You can't do that as much in the NFL because your body's not going to hold up, and plus everybody's fast in the NFL. But Burrow was a hell of a runner with the ball at the college level, and even when he wasn't running, he was just great at buying time, great at escaping. Um, Look, all the rules of playing the quarterback position kind of went out the window. You see him zigzagging, turning around. He's doing high school stuff uh, in the backfield, but it worked out because he was just that kind of quarterback. So, on that note, if I could take one player, regardless of need, regardless of anything else, from the NFL, from one LSU player from the NFL, sticking back on this team, it's got to be Burrow. So, look, we made it. We made it. We made it through another show. Sick or not sick, I want y'all to subscribe. I want y'all to like it. I want y'all to tell people about it. When you talking to people about LSU football, like, hey, look, it's this dude named Lewis. He did a whole show. He was sick. His throat was hurting, but he's a soldier, and he fought through it. I appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check me out. Follow me on TikTok and Twitter at CFBLou, and I will catch y'all later.